into this apartment in the beginning of January 1st to be exact, which is a crazy time to move, but we thought new year, fresh start, we're gonna get our own place that'll be super, super awesome, so we moved here. So that was 6 months ago now. We were only here for, I think, about 4 days before things already started getting a little strange. By the fourth night, I was woken up from a dead sleep to a big crashing sound, followed by water rushing. And I ran downstairs to find the downstairs bathroom sink and the kitchen sink were turned on full blast, and the fridge and freezer doors, which are very heavy, were completely swung wide open. It was wild. I remember trying to tell my husband, like, hey, there's something going on. You know, he thought maybe it was the cats messing with something. It sounds like there's someone walking.
Yeah, behind me.
He thought that maybe it was the cats, but they wouldn't be able to turn knobs on the sinks and also swing open the doors. Like, that doesn't make sense that it was cats. Before moving forward, I should probably explain that I do experience a little bit of clairvoyance in the sense that I can see human-like beings that may not be in this dimension. They're usually a little bit blurry or a little bit foggy, but most of the time they're in full color. They would be a little bit faded. Like, you know how like if a real live human being is standing in front of you, you see it, like it's like a very opaque, solid, very clear figure. So in contrast, sorry, there's something driving by. In contrast, this would be that, but more blurry, out of focus, almost like a cloud. Like how you can see that it's white, but it's transparent a little bit. Yeah, so sometimes when I see them, I'll see them out of the corner of my eye first, and if I turn to look, they are no longer there, but other times I can turn and look and they will be there. There were 3 entities, beings in this house that I could look at and they would be there. And so I named them Michael, who is a little boy, and I'll talk about him later. The woman, or I sometimes call her the wife. And it's funny because the third, I was really having a hard time deciphering if it was male or female. I still don't entirely know, but it was just a smaller child that was with her that I didn't see as often. I also saw a big shadowy figure of a man, and I just called him the husband, but he was never in full color and looking like a real person like they were. Okay, so I was sitting on the couch, which was to my left, sitting on the couch, which was sitting on the couch, sitting on the couch, which was to my left in the living room here. And I was looking into the kitchen, and I could see a woman, the woman and her 2 children standing there. The kids were wearing, like, they all kind of looked like they were wearing formal attire, to be honest. But the woman was definitely wearing a white dress, like they always do. That was the first time I saw them. And then the longer that we were here, the more intense the sightings became, the experiences became.
I just heard like a little girl whisper.
I heard that too. That we were here, the more intense the sightings became, the experiences became. The sightings became, the experiences became.
It was in here.
It sounded like it was right here.
Sound like a girl? Maybe not little, I can't tell. Maybe just around the corner whispering.
Here. There it is again. It's just funny because through filming this video, we're probably going to end up experiencing a few things because the activity is almost constant, but it's become so normal to me that it doesn't even freak me out anymore. It's just the apartment. They just live here too. Sometimes my husband would need to run out to his parents' place to help them out at night. And of course at night, when you're alone, you're already a little bit freaked out, and that's when things would really become not as friendly.
Okay.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
you get weird vibes over here.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was saging, when I first got, well, after the first incident with the fridge and stuff, remember when I told you?
Yeah.
This was the space where we piled all the boxes, so we didn't get to sage over here.
Ah.
And like later when we unpacked more, when I went to sage there, it was almost like there was cold air blowing the sage out, like away from the area.
Interesting.
It was very, very weird.
I'm hearing stuff downstairs. Just so you know. It sounded like someone was in the living room just now.
You may have noticed that the background is a little bit different. I asked Jenna if we could relocate because being back at the apartment, telling the stories about what had happened there was a little bit unnerving, and there is also a lot of extremely negative energy in that space, not just because of the beings, but there are also live human beings living in the basement apartment below it that are extremely angry human beings that are constantly yelling and arguing with each other. It creates almost a drowning feeling if you're in the space for too long, because the negative energy is just seeping through the floor up into the space. I was becoming so unbelievably anxious. It felt like someone had wrapped like an elastic rope around me that was just squeezing me tight. We needed to get out of there. Yeah, they're just always arguing and yelling. You can hear what they're saying through the floor to each other, and it's always extremely aggressive and really intense. I'm getting anxious just thinking about it. It's basically like they're in the space with you, just screaming constantly. There, I do want to continue telling you these stories. So because the humans living in the basement were creating and stirring up so much negative energy and negative vibes, I think that that's a huge part of why some of the entities were behaving in a negative way, or it could possibly have been attracting negative entities because it's already a negative energy. Like, it's like so thick. Like, I want to say that the air is thick with negativity. It's hard to breathe. So it sounds like it would be a really perfect place for negative entities to thrive. So the occurrences, the accounts, the experiences, whatever you want to call them, would become more intense and often more frightening when I was alone, and especially at night. So my husband would often have to leave. He takes care of his parents, and he would have to leave at night, and I'd be left alone in the apartment. There was one night in particular that scared me so much, and it was such an intense event that maybe some of you won't even believe me, but I guess if you're watching this video, you're probably going to at least find it interesting, so just bear with me, it's a lot. So I was alone, sitting on the couch, and I just felt the air go cold, and it felt like it was just dead air. Very, very still. The word sharp comes to mind, and I could hear big work boots. It sounded like big work boots stomping up the stairs and then stomping back down the stairs. And immediately I knew, okay, it's the husband who is, to my knowledge, the only real negative entity that is attached to that space. I kind of always had the feeling that the woman and children were afraid of him. I don't know if it's her husband, if it's their father, I'm not really sure, but that's kind of what I was vibing. So I felt fear in the air, and then I heard him walking, and then I went into the kitchen to inspect the stairs because they're off the kitchen. And I was looking in the window, like in the kitchen, in the window, looking outside to see if someone was around. Like I was trying to figure out what the banging was. And through the reflection of myself in the window, I could see a little boy standing right here beside me. And then I heard a woman calling from the living room. She said, "Michael!" And then I went into the living room, there was nobody there. It wasn't scary because I thought that they were evil or anything. So I felt like those two were actually quite good energy. I didn't find them bad, but I was picking up on the fact that they were afraid. And then still, I go back to the kitchen to look in the window again. And I'm looking across the street, and I just saw this giant man. Like, we're talking, if you've seen Friday the 13th, like that. It was just this big black mass, like a shadow, but opaque. I look away and I look back and he's closer. And now I'm getting afraid. So I go into the living room to get my phone and text my friend to come over. And then when I come back, he's not there. Then I saw the same figure, the man, the husband, was standing in my house at this point. Big, 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 big. I saw him in the house ever since then. That was the first time that he was actually in the apartment. He's standing in the kitchen, and at this point I'm just hoping that she is gonna make it here in time. I was so scared, I was shaking. I heard the woman, the same woman that called for Michael, I heard her say, "Get out!" like that, and that was really scary. But I didn't want to go up to my room and close the door because I wanted to be where I could see everything and make sure that I was okay. At this point, I wasn't sure if there was like an actual like person that had broken into my house. Like, he was like solid. And so at this point, in this moment of desperation, I turned to the white light. When I surround myself with light, I usually picture it in my hands first, and then I just expand it and cover myself, cover my space. So it started small, and then I just pictured the white light growing, and the white light kind of seemed to banish him, like he just faded away. And then my friend ran in right after that. She was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I was so scared. Wow, I feel like that was yesterday. It was so intense. But ever since that day, for the rest of my time there, I kept seeing the man in the kitchen or hearing him stomping up and down the stairs. Sometimes, again with that window, when I was in the kitchen looking out the window through the reflection, I could see near the downstairs bathroom in that little hallway area, he would just be standing there. He was just always watching. But the longer I lived there, the closer he would get to me. Fortunately, I know how to protect myself, but sometimes he would just come out of nowhere and be so close. And he would just get closer and closer and closer. I'm very happy I moved out when I did. So that was probably the most intense experience. So there was an incident where it was just very interesting. Not necessarily spooky, but just weird, I guess, where I was cleaning the kitchen and I decided to put away the dishes from the dishwasher. So I opened it up, dishes were clean, just started taking my dishes out, and then I realized, I'm like, what is this? There was this mug placed in the dishwasher. I've never seen this mug before in my life. I will insert a photo or a video of it now for you to see it. So to me, it was kind of a good omen. It was almost like a gift from the spirits that reside there. I like that there was hearts on it. To me, it was like, hey, we're happy, we're nice, here's some hearts, you know, sending love. But the only thing that was weird to me is you could either perceive the eyes on the face as being whited out and open, or with the eyelashes on the bottom, it being the eyes shut. But either way, I found the eyes to be a little bit peculiar. So then I brought the mug to my husband, my stepson. I said, hey guys, whose mug is this? Did you put this in the dishwasher? I've never seen this before. They said, no, I've never seen that before. And then we actually know the previous tenants of this apartment, like that lived there right before us. So I called her and I said, hey, I'm gonna text you a picture of this mug. I think that you left a mug here when you moved out. So I sent it over and she said she has never seen that mug in her life. And they lived in that apartment for, I think, 5 years. So that doesn't make sense. So I was walking up to the bathroom. And by the time I got to the landing on the top floor, I was looking into the bathroom because that's where I was headed. And I saw a reflection, like through the mirror, there was a woman standing in my shower. And then I ran into the bathroom, pulled the curtain over, or moved the curtain even more over, just to make sure, and there was nobody in the shower. But I could see them through the reflection of the mirror, so that was very weird. Keeping upstairs as well, another time, I was coming from the bathroom into the master bedroom, and so you have to walk past my stepson's room to get there, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a girl. She must have been around 12 years old or so. So when I was walking past, I noticed there was a girl crouched down in his room. He wasn't in his room, I should mention that. It was empty. But she was just crouched, smiling at me. And then when I turned to actually look at her, she was gone. But I swear, it was close enough to me that I could see it very clearly. I'm gonna get into the position and show you how weird it is, so forgive me because it is weird. She was crouched down like this, smiling at me. Isn't that creepy? Sometimes strange things would happen in my bedroom, the master. There was a few instances where I would be laying in bed and notice that there were shadow beings all around my bed. I felt like they were watching me, like observing me. And I don't know why, but it was a very strange feeling. There were other instances where it would all be shadow children, laughing and playing and being loud in my room when I was trying to sleep. I don't think that any of these entities were attached to the space the way that the woman, the two children, and the husband were, but it was still kind of creepy to see. Oh, one of the first nights that I was sleeping in that room, when I was starting to fall asleep, I saw 4 or 5 men in robes standing at the wall that's adjacent to my bed, and there was something very ritualistic feeling about it. I remember feeling like I couldn't move, like I couldn't talk, only for a moment, but it was still really, really frightening. But again, thank goodness I used my light, surrounded myself with my light. They faded away when I filled the room with the light, and I was able to talk and move again. But it was very frightening. Sometimes when the man or the husband, big black mass, sometimes when he was in the space, typically in the kitchen or the living room, I would look at the window in the kitchen and the woman and the 2 children would be trapped outside, banging on the window. They looked scared for me, I guess. And that was when he started coming closer and closer and closer to me every time I would see him. Probably the last month that we lived there, they would be trapped all the time outside. It was like he would throw them out so that they couldn't protect me and warn me. Ugh. It's like every time I would see him, I would feel nauseous and cold, and it was an awful feeling. Very often I would hear the children playing and laughing together. The woman would sing or hum sometimes, I would hear her. But until he started keeping them outside, she would always warn me when he was coming around. She'd say, "Get out," or "Be careful," or "Go." She would often say "go" to me in my left ear. For example, there was a time where my husband and I were on the couch and she came to my left ear and she said, "Go," like that, like she was scared. And I stood up and I said, "Chris, we need to go upstairs. It's time to go to bed. We can't be down here. I can't be down here." And he's taken his time, and I just got this, I felt like she was like pushing me, to get out of there. She needed me to go upstairs. And I just kept telling him, "I can't be down here. I need to go. And I wonder how that must have looked for him to see me almost being pushed, but he can't see things the way that I see them. And then I saw the man starting to appear. He kind of like would manifest himself from the floor, which is interesting too because of what I was saying about the negative energy. Kind of felt like it was seeping through the floor. That's kind of how he would appear. It would start as like a foggy shadow that was flat on the ground, and then it would slowly grow into a person. So yeah, and then I pretty much like love the guy, but I ran upstairs without him because I was too freaked out. So 2 weeks ago, we moved out of this apartment and we bought our first house. We moved into our house. I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of missed the company of the woman and her children. They were really nice. I liked having them around. I felt good having them around. I didn't mind sharing my space with them at all. I hope that they're able to leave that place and leave that man, because I think that they're very scared of him. Now in my new house, I've not seen anyone that's not living, and nothing seemed to follow me, not even the man, which I'm happy about. Even when we went back there today, just for a few minutes, I felt sick. I couldn't be in there. When we were living in this apartment, for the first 3 weeks, we were living there alone. There was nobody renting out the basement apartment. And during that time, we experienced, you know, the sinks running and the fridge opening, and which I think was just the kids playing around, playing tricks on us. But we never saw the husband or the man until the tenants moved into the basement. That negative entity didn't manifest itself until negative people were polluting the air with their bad energy. Maybe it isn't her husband at all. Maybe it wasn't like an abusive father figure. Maybe she was just scared because she's going, who's this guy? Same with me. And because I know that she and her children are attached to that space. I know that. I'm just not sure if the husband is attached to the space, to them, or to the tenants in the basement when they showed up, is when he showed up. I asked the previous people that lived there if they had ever seen or experienced anything unusual, and they said no. But they did say that their dog would very often bark at the wall or stare at the corner, you know, seeing something that may or may not be there, but they never saw anything themselves. I don't know for a fact that the woman and her children are attached to the space, but I just kind of got the sense that they were very comfortable there and that it was their home. It was a feeling, I guess. Sometimes I just get this sense of knowing without them actually showing me. It just kind of felt like that was their home. Our animals did also notice the other beings in our space. There were many times where my cats especially, very, very often they would kind of crouch down, their fur would go up, and they'd be just staring at something, get a little bit closer, freak out, get a little bit closer. They weren't sure, but they were acting like they were seeing something that was terrifying them. Especially when we were in the living room and I would see something in the kitchen, usually my dogs would be looking at them too. My husband would be just eating chips, watching TV, like everything's normal, and my dogs and I were all just staring into the kitchen. I have lived in many haunted houses in my lifetime, but that was by far the scariest. I hope that you enjoyed listening to these crazy stories, and thank you so much for watching.
Ew. That's her
Jules,
voice. That's her
voice. That's
Yeah.
her voice.